There you go. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Trolleheim with your host, Rabbi Anibal. So happy that you made it today for our annual Tu Bishvat class, which today happens to be on Tu Bishvat. Not every year that happens that Tu Bishvat happens to be on a Thursday. So it's great that you were able to make it. And it's funny how you guys said Chag Sameach. Love it that you say Chag Sameach, but it's not a Chag. It's not a holiday to Bishvat. We are going to study all the details, of course, during the class, but let me tell you just a quick preview. Tu Bishvat is tax day. It's like saying Happy Tax Day. Nobody says that. Nobody's happy to paying taxes. Are you? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not happy paying taxes. Maybe you are. Maybe you are. Welcome, Judy. Welcome. Welcome to the class. But Tu Bishvat is something that has been evolving over the generations. Yeah, in these days we don't remember how Tu Bishvat actually started back in the times of the temple. It used to be a way actually to calculate how much produce you have from your trees, because there was a percentage of that you will have to take to the temple, but you were not allowed to touch it before year number 5 after you planted. So it was very complicated. Tu Bishvat was very important in order so you can do this self-taxation of your fruit, right? So Tu Bishvat was the date. The deadline. Let's put it that way. But in this day and age, we all celebrate Tu Bishvat different ways. We understand that it's New Year of the Tree, and there are things for kids, things for adults. For example, tonight we have a concert here at the Sher Zedek celebrating nature and reflecting over what we can do to preserve our planet. It's going to be a beautiful thing, and we believe that Tu Bishvat is a perfect opportunity for us to talk about that, because after all, tax or no tax, we do have the concept of the tree. It is the new year of the tree, after all. Welcome, Ariel Lee. Welcome, Marlene. Welcome to the class. Is it the first time, Marlene, that you join us? I don't remember saying your name before. So welcome. So we are going to begin in just 2 more minutes, as more people are coming to the classroom. We're going to begin with the class on Tu Bishvat, and you're going to see. I want to start the class basically, but by showing you the biblical reference on why we need to have Tu Bishvat, and then eventually we are going to reflect on how Tu Bishvat evolved during the centuries, and also what kind of different messages we can get from this special date in the Jewish calendar. Because that is one of the beauties of Judaism. Remember, back in the day, Judaism was 100% temple based. Everything that you read in the Torah about Passover, about Shavuot, about Sukkot, and so many different things, they were basically related to the temple. There was always something you had to do at the temple. Sacrifice that you have to bring, maybe sometimes yourself will have to go 3 times a year to the temple, and so forth. Once the temple was destroyed, twice already, one by the Babylonians, one in the hands of the Romans, Judaism went through some radical changes because we couldn't fulfill all those obligations that we have related to the temple. So there is when Rabbinic Judaism flourished. having a big reinterpretation of all the rituals that we had before, and Tu Bishvat is not an exception. Okay? And you have to understand, just for you to capture it in a nutshell, Judaism used to be temple centered. After the destruction of the temple, Judaism became Torah centered. Okay? And I believe that a certain degree in this generation, after 1948, for some people, Judaism became Israel centered. Why do I say that? Because you will see many people in Israel that they are Jews, they're Israelis, but they are not religious. They don't have a connection with the Torah. So their Judaism, it's all about their connection with the land of Israel, and specifically in Israel with the land. With the land. And I believe that all this strong connection between Tu Bishvat and the land of Israel, but when I say the land, I'm talking about the actual land, the ground, began with this big push by the JNF, Jewish National Fund, that it was brilliant for them to connect their name and their work with Tu Bishvat. And that's how we have this strong connection between Tu Bishvat and the land of Israel, thanks to JNF. But this is not uncommon. It's almost like the way Coca-Cola, right, connected themselves with Christmas, right? It was brilliant. It was brilliant. So JNF was brilliant to connect their organization with Tu Bishvat, the same way you will see, for example, Chabad connecting themselves with Hanukkah, for example. So you will see them all around the globe. JNF will have a big presence during Tu Bishvat. Welcome, Randy. Welcome to the class. So without further ado, let's begin with the class. I want to show you this text from the Torah so we can start learning about Tu Bishvat. Okay, where it's coming from? Here it is. Here it is. This is the text talking about Tu Bishvat and why Tu Bishvat is necessary. You'll see. When you enter to the land and plant various kinds of fruit trees, you are to regard its fruit as forbidden. Okay? And by the way, let me finish, and then I will comment. For 3 years it will be forbidden to you and not eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruit will be holy for praising Hashem, for praising God. But in the 5th year, you may eat its fruit, so that it will produce even more for you. I am Hashem, your God. Well, the Torah here details regulation associated with fruit trees. Any fruit that grows on a tree during the first 3 years after it has been planted is called orla, and is forbidden for consumption. And this is something that I've been asked before. What if you are not living in the land of Israel? Do you still have to observe the law of orla? And the answer is yes. If you have a house, and if you have a backyard, and you have trees that give fruit, but you have to be careful, because you are not allowed to eat the fruit for not 3 but 4 years. Because remember, in the 4th year you have to take all the fruit and bring it to the temple. But we don't have the temple anymore, so basically we are not allowed to touch those fruit for 4 years, and only on the 5th year we are allowed to eat it. So if you take your Judaism a little bit, if you're a little bit more observant, if you have fruit trees, you have to be aware of how old the trees are. Or if you plant a new tree, you have to actually follow this and not touch the fruit for the first 4 years. And if you buy a house, you ask the previous owners, how old are those trees in the backyard, and so forth. Okay? So there's something that people don't realize that they're mentioned in the Torah, and people think that they were discontinued once the temple was destroyed. For example, the other one was the sabbatical year, right? The Torah mentioned that we have to count every 7 years, and there are certain things that we have to do. We are not allowed to eat from the fruit of the land. We still observe that, the sabbatical year, but that specific one is observed only in Israel. So it means that every 7 years you are not allowed to eat the produce from Israel. So when you buy in the supermarket, for example, fruit from Israel, chances are if you look in the box, you will say if it's coming from a sabbatical year. So people that are more religious that year, they won't get Israeli products. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so back to the text that we have here from Leviticus. It's all good. We have to count the 3 years and then the fourth year and then the fifth year you can eat it. All good. How do you count years? What constitutes a year? From the time you plant, from the time you see, you know, the little bit of the sapling coming out of the ground. Every time you go to Rosh Hashanah, that becomes the first year. How do you count the years? Well, the rabbi said that there is a specific moment of the year that it will constitute year one, year two, year three, and that is going to be to Bishvat, the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Shevat, which is happened to be today. Okay? But this is coming not from the Torah, not from the written Torah itself, but it's coming from the Mishnah. Brenda, you say perhaps you can sing a Tu Bishvat song for us. I'm tempted to, but my voice is not the greatest today. And we have a concert tonight where we are going to sing lots of songs for Tu Bishvat, not just one. And then, I remember from school what we used to sing for Tu Bishvat. Tu Bishvat igia chaklai lanot. That's what I remember for that one. But in these days, we sing lots of songs related to trees, to nature, and all that. Maybe I can sing it a little bit after. I have my piano in the back. And I can sing for you a little bit of the song that I'm going to sing tonight at the concert. Maybe I can do that if I remember, or somebody will remind me at the end. Okay? So let's go to the next slide. This is what I was telling you guys. The Mishnah is the one dealing with how do we actually count these 4 years. So the Mishnah says there are 4 new years, actually. 4 new years in Judaism. New year number 1, the first of Nisan, is the new year for kings and for festivals. By the way, the first of Nisan as a new year, it is mentioned in the Torah. When the Israelites left Egypt, God sent, or God told them the very first commandment as a nation. And the very first commandment as a nation was, this is going to be the first month of the year for you. Okay, what month was that? Was the month of Nisan. So basically it said the month of Passover, the first day of the month of Passover is going to be the new year according to the Torah. Okay, in these days we call it the biblical new year. The biblical new year. And that is important because we calculate the festivals based on the first of Nisan. Okay? And also in the old days, the first of Nisan was a way to calculate how many years a king sat in the throne. So if a king will be elected as or anointed as king 1 month, let's say 1 month before the first of Nisan, whenever that king comes to the first of Nisan, even though he's been sitting in the throne for only 1 month, it constitutes 1 year, and so forth. Okay, so that is New Year number 1, first of Nisan, New Year for kings and festival. Then we have the first of Elul. Elul is 1 month before Rosh Hashanah for you to calculate. The first of Elul is the new year for the tithe of cattle. Okay? That means if you have cattle back in the day, you know that you have to take a percentage of that, 10%, and that it doesn't belong to you. It has to be consecrated to the temple. So the Mishnah said the first of Elul is the new year for the tithe of cattle. But Rabbi Eleazar and Rabbi Shimon place this, the tithing for the cattle, on the first of Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashanah. Okay? So now it says on the first of Tishrei is the new year for years. It means that that's when you have to get a new calendar. So last year was 5784, and then the first of Tishrei became 5785. Okay, that's why it's important the first of Tishrei, and that is what we call today Rosh Hashanah. So that is the new year for years. That is also how we calculate the sabbatical and jubilee years for planting and for the tithe of vegetables. Okay. And then for the new year of the tree, we have two opinions. On the first of Shevat is the new year for the tree according to the ruling of Beit Shammai. Okay, the school of Shammai said first of Shevat, but the school of Hillel, Bet Hillel, place it on the 15th of that month, 15th of Shevat, which is the one that we celebrate. So, if I who won the argument? Hillel or Shammai? The Hillel, because that's what we celebrate, the 15th of Shevat. Okay, but you can see here how there was a disagreement during the Mishnah. Long story short, is going to be solved during the discussion, and that became eventually the Talmud. Okay, so rabbis thought if the fruit of a tree blossoms before the 15th of Shevat, it is tithe for the outgoing year. If after the 15th of Shevat, it's tithe for the incoming year. So that's the cut. So you have to, when as Tu Bishvat approaches, you have to look at your trees, and then you see, did it blossom? No. Okay. So there is nothing to tithe for that year. Is accumulating for the next one, and that's the way. That's why Tu Bishvat was so important. But you can see here how, if there is no temple, or if you don't have fruit trees, because you live in a city, you don't really have trees. You live in an apartment, so Tu Bishvat is not for you. So the questions that the rabbis had was, so what do we do with Tu Bishvat now? Do we just get rid of it? Because it's not necessary anymore because there is no temple? Well, things like this, questions like this, what do we do with this celebration or with this special date? That was a big part of Rabbinic Judaism on their beginning, because they have to adapt to a new reality of no temple, but they wanted to preserve the spirit of the date. And that's why I'm going to show you different things that has been done during with Tu Bishvat, so we can still observe it in this date. David, you say, what if there is a crop failure in 1 year? I'm not an expert on this. I'm not an expert. It's not something that we do anymore or we use anymore. So I guess I can go and study more details about all the laws of tithing and how to fully calculate and how to observe the tree and what constitutes a blossom. I don't know. Because I don't know, maybe something that I may think that the tree already blossomed, but then if an expert would say, no, you see, because this is missing, so it hasn't blossomed yet. I don't know. So there are many things here that I never studied, and it's not something that it says, okay, let's go study all the details of the trees and everything. And you know what I mean? It's in this day and age also it would be very theoretical. The applications are very limited. So yeah, let's continue. Now, the rabbis mentioned something very interesting, and this is where we start now the process of reinterpretation of Tu Bishvat. Bear with me, and you will understand what I'm trying to say here. For example, Listen to this text from Rabbi Zadok HaKohen Rabinowitz of Lublin. Okay? And check where this is from. This is from Poland, okay? Late 1800s. Poland, late 1800s. We didn't have the state of Israel yet. In fact, for these people, there was it wasn't even in their radar or in their dreams that very soon after that was going to be a state of Israel. So listen to this. What was the main connection on Tu Bishvat? Okay, listen. This rabbi said, it is not called the Rosh Hashanah for the tree, with an S, but for the tree, singular. Whenever the word tree is used, it always refers to Torah, which is called Etz Chaim, the tree of life. Also, the Jewish people are referred to as apples hanging on the tree in the orchard. The tree here referring to God Himself. Therefore, Tu B'Shvat is also the celebration of the unique and intimate relationship the Jewish people have with their God, and a day to pursue that closeness. You can see here what I was telling you before, how Judaism changed for being temple-centered to Torah-centered. So even Tu B'Shvat, which it was the New Year for the tree, it became somehow connected to the Torah. In the sense that this rabbi would say, well, the New Year for the tree is an allegory. It's not really talking about the physical tree. It's talking about the New Year of the Torah, a new year for us to strengthen our connection with the Torah and with God. It's fascinating. There is nothing in the writings of this rabbi in Poland, late 1800s, that it will attempt to connect Tu B'Shvat with the actual land. Land of Israel or land of Poland doesn't really matter. There was nothing. And all the texts from those days will, with certain variations, will point to the same thing. It was all about the connection the connection of Tu B'Shvat with Torah, mainly with Torah, because the Torah is called Etz Chaim. We sing it in every service, right? When we close the Torah service in synagogue, Etz Chaimi lama chazikim ba, so forth. Okay, so that's what you have to understand and how this works. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? You say here, Brenda, I like the interpretation. Which interpretation? This rabbis? And I think when I read this kind of interpretation, right, that the Tu B'Shvat is connected to Torah, I don't really think that it has to be either or. I think it's fascinating for us to be able to add more layers to a single date in the Jewish calendar. It's the same thing, for example, when we celebrate other festivals, that it doesn't have to be one single theme attached to the festival. You can have multiple layers. So, for example, during Passover, it's a festival of freedom, right? And it's great. We celebrate freedom on Passover. But at the same time, we don't eat matzah, right? We don't eat leavened products. So, and the rabbis explained that the leavened products represents our ego. Okay? So by avoiding leavened products, we are avoiding feeding our egos. It's another layer. It doesn't have to be either ego or freedom. We keep accumulating layers, and it makes the special dates of the Jewish calendar more interesting, because all these reinterpretations will help us preserve these sacred dates, so it will somehow resonate with something that is important for us in our generation. Okay? That's what I said. For example, this text that you, Brenda, like very much, I'm pretty sure a secular Israeli won't care much about it. They don't make a connection of Tu B'Shvat with the Torah, but they made a connection of Tu B'Shvat with the land. But it's a different layer. Okay, so it allows more people to observe these dates and because it will resonate with different people, with different backgrounds. So that's why it's important to understand all these different layers and to get familiar with the different layers as well. So I was also reading a little bit because, David, going back to your questions about all the details of these calculations, I was interested once in why in this world would Bet Shammai say that it's the first of Shabbat and Bet Hillel said that it's on the 15th of Shabbat, and it seems to be that there is a historical reason for that. And that one I did find. And it goes like this. It said Bet Shammai focuses on passing the point in the season when we have experienced the majority of rainfall and will impact on the growth of the tree and its fruits, while Beit Hillel takes into consideration the warming of the air as well, for it too will have a significant impact upon the budding of the fruit trees. So what happened here is, again, this is all centered in the land of Israel, okay, and in the Middle East in general. So what happened is, at the beginning of the Hebrew month of Shevat, in this case, let's say February. Let's say February. At the beginning of February, there, the majority of the rainfall already ceased. It's going to continue raining, but it's not as much as we keep moving towards March. Okay? But Hillel says that even though in the Middle East the rain pattern starts changing, the air still cold at the beginning of February, and you don't start feeling some kind of warming of the weather until mid February or so. Okay, or so. So that's why this difference seems to be between Hillel and Shammai into when should be the new year for the tree. But also there is another interpretation that it was a Bet Shammai represented a wealthy class whose superior orchards began to form fruits 2 weeks earlier than the trees of farmers with poorer fields. Okay, so this is very important because if you calculate Tu Bishvat too early, so people whose trees will blossom a little bit later, then they will have to almost wait one extra year before they can eat from the fruit. So the sooner you can do the first counting, the sooner eventually you're going to be able to enjoy your fruits and not letting it rot and going to the ground. Okay, so that's why it was very important. And the rabbis decided that this should be on the 15th of Shevat. Now, and this is what I wanted to tell you. I'm reading here at the bottom of the slide. There is nothing about the date that is related to the planting of trees. Uh, what, uh, what then may have served as the source of the Zionist idea to reinvent this day as a day for planting trees? I wish my teachers from elementary school would be listening to this class, because back in South America, it's the opposite season, right? So it's warm there, so you can go outside and plant and do that thing. And that's what we used to do back home until I realized, hold on a minute, there is nothing in the Torah or in the Talmud about Tu B'Shvat being a day of planting. It's a day of taxing, right? So where this idea of planting actually came from? Any guesses? Any guesses where this came from? I give you a minute to think about it. Okay, let's continue. So, listen to this. This is coming from the connection, what I mentioned before, the one you, Brenda, actually liked, of connecting Tu B'Shvat with the Torah. Okay? So yeah, yeah. Brenda also JNF also got planting. But what is the connection between Tu Bishvat and planting? Came from it did come from the connection from Tu Bishvat and the Torah actually, not the land. Listen to this. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon, began quoting from the Deuteronomy 13:5, saying, "After the Lord your God you shall walk, and unto him shall you cling." Okay, I always like to explain this. This text is from Midrash Rabbah. I have it there in the back, in the shelves. I have the Midrash Rabbah, and what I like about it is every rabbi who bring a midrash, who present a midrash, usually starts with a quote from scripture that is somehow related with the topic that they're about to talk or they're about to present. Okay? So the way Midrash Rabbah say is Rabbi so and so used to begin their lecture quoting this verse from the Tanakh, from the Bible. That's the structure of Midrash Rabbah. Okay, so if you ever read Midrash Rabbah, you will notice that they follow this pattern. So I will start again now that you know what to expect. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon, began quoting from Deuteronomy 13:5. To the Lord your God you shall walk, and unto him shall you cling. Is it possible for a human being, flesh and blood, to rise up to the heavens and to cling to the divine presence about whom it is written, "For the Lord your God is a consuming fire"? It's impossible, right? So now is what he wants to say. Rather, just as from the beginning of the world, the Holy One, blessed be He, involved Himself only in planting, for example, and the Lord your God planted in the Garden of Eden, so too, when you enter into the land, involve yourself only in planting, and it is written, when you come to the promised land, etc. Okay? So here it is the act of planting become an act of emulating or imitating God. And because Judaism, as I mentioned, evolved from being temple-centered to be Torah-centered, and Tu Bishvat become also a day to connect with the Torah and with God and strengthen our relationship with God. So what we do is we emulate God's virtues or characteristics on the day of Tu Bishvat, one of whom is planting. And this is one of the reasons why the planting is mentioned or is attached to the day of Tu Bishvat. Let's continue. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was known to say, if you are holding a sapling in your hand and someone says that the Messiah has drawn near, first plant the sapling and then go and greet the Messiah. So in other words, this Avod Rabbi Natan, it was saying that planting is so important that even the Messiah can wait for you to finish planting. Oh, there's fluff flying here. Okay, so as you can see here in both cases, it seems that one is to understand tree planting as a holy act. So the concept of planting during Tu Bishvat, even if it's not really planting season, was part of the spirit of the day even before there was the revival of the connection of the Jewish people with the land of Israel. And this is very interesting because I always thought that the planting thing began with JNF, and it didn't. It was always part of Jewish tradition even before they even imagined that it would be a reality for the Jewish people to go back to the land of Israel and to be able to actually plant in Israel once again. And it's a fascinating thing that that happens. So there is the connection between planting and Tu Bishvat. Now, I wanted to bring back, this is the text that we were reading, last week, and when I finished the class and we didn't have time to go through this one, so I decided to bring it again. so we can actually read it and study and meditate on these words. This is from the Talmud and Masechet Ta'anit, page 23b, and it's about this weird character. It's called Honi Ameagel, which means Honi was the name, Honi. Meagel is the one who likes to draw circles. He was a miracle worker, and he was famous for making these deals with God. So the way it will work is Honi will sit on the floor and he will draw a circle around him and he will talk to God. Say, God, until you don't answer my prayers, I won't get out of this circle. And it looks like God will be moved or, I don't know, terrified. But Honi, I say, okay, Honi, I will give you whatever you ask me. Just get out of that circle. I know, it's funny, but that's how Honi became famous. So one day, Honia Meagel, who once prayed for rain during a drought and refused to move from within a circle until the rain came, which he did, right? Was he was journeying on the road and saw a man planting a carob tree. He asked him, "How long does it take for this tree to bear fruit?" The man replied, 70 years. He then further asked him, "Are you certain that you will live another 70 years?" The man replied, "I found ready grown carob trees in the world. As my forefathers planted this for me, so I too plant this for my children." Honi sat down to have a meal, and sleep overcame him. As he slept, a rocky formation enclosed upon him, which hid him from sight, and he continued to sleep for 70 years. When he awoke, he saw a man gathering the fruit of the carob tree, and he asked him, "Are you the man who planted the tree?" The man replied, "I am his grandson." Thereupon Honi exclaimed, "It is clear that I slept for 70 years." So, what this story is telling us, and again, I love these stories when we read them properly, when we are able to see the allegory inside the stories. And unfortunately, I know some people try to take this as a fact and miss the point that the story itself is like a veil, and you have to be able to lift the veil so you can see the truth behind the story. Okay? So what is the story of Honia Meagel is trying to tell us is that the responsibility of planting is a responsibility of every generation, because the fruits that we are enjoying in this generation is something that it was planted many years ago. So if we want to be sure that the next generation will also have fruits to enjoy, we have to, number one, preserve what we got, and number two, planning for the future as well. So that's why I believe this story is very current. It's very current, and it's talking about our responsibilities with not just preserving, but multiplying what we got from previous generations. It's a responsibility. It's a responsibility to do so. Yeah. That's why I was a little upset last week that we didn't have time to go through the story of Honi, because I think it's very profound. Now, you see, this rabbi will explain a little bit what the story of Honi means to him. And he will say, although a tree may not give direct benefit to the individual that planted it, the individual's children, his successors, will enjoy the product of his effort. When a person toils in this world by following the dictates of God and his commandments, the person is not merely placing himself in a situation where he is deserving of reward, whether it comes in this world to the next. It is also directly benefiting his children. He is setting forth a lesson. As the planter said, "As my forefathers planted for me, so too I plant for my children." He is directing his children's path for the future. He is establishing benefit for his children. Hashem rewards the children of those that love him as well. Honi vividly saw this lesson as when he woke up after 70 years, he saw the grandchild of the planter eating the fruits of his grandfather's labor. Clearly, the toil in a short and fleeting life, seemingly insignificant, could be nothing further from that. Yeah, that's why, Brenda, I like what you say. What you say here, Brenda. You said that's true for every aspect of our lives. What this rabbi is saying, again, remember what I mentioned before, don't get stuck on the story. Try to understand the allegory or the general principle. So what he's saying is we shouldn't even think about that principle applies to planting carob trees or any other kind of tree. It applies to everything you do. And that's why the tzaddik, the righteous person in scripture, is compared to a palm tree. We sing it every Kabbalah Shabbat. We said, Tzaddik kata hamari hifrach. The righteous like the tamar, like the, how you call it, the palm tree will flourish. Why is that? It's because when you do a good action, when you do good actions, you're called a tzaddik, right? A righteous person. When you do a good action, don't expect to see the fruits of your actions right away. In the same way that when you plant a tree, don't expect to see the fruit right away. It's not happening like that. So you even to see the results of your good actions, you have to learn patience. You have to be able to wait, because sometimes you won't even see the actions or the fruits of your actions in this world. Sometimes it's going to be part of the next generation or the generation after. But it doesn't mean that every action that you do won't have a reaction. It's going to happen either in this world or in the other world. That's why I like Brenda's comment that this is true for every single aspect of our life. We plant today, okay, without expecting that something is going to happen right away, but eventually it's going to happen. Eventually it's going to happen. And that's why I think it's important to reflect on that or about that on this Tu Bishvat as well. Now, another rabbi with another comments about Honi. He said, Honi learned that one's accomplishments are not necessarily valued for what they produce in the here and now. The days of the life of man, as it is said in the book of Job, indeed shall fly like a dream. Fly away like a dream. It is what remains afterwards that it is the judge of accomplishment and success. Did you plan during your life? If not, nothing remains when you are gone, and therefore your life does not have lasting significance. However, if we all planned by learning Torah, by adhering to the commandments of God, by acting morally and compassionately, and by teaching our children to do the same, fruits will be born. We may not see these fruits during our life, we may not get to enjoy them in this world, but we can rest assured. I like Honi, who slept for 70 years to learn this lesson, knowing that we indeed will be harvesting our bounty in the world to come, and our children will thrive because of our efforts. So, what is interesting about this is, yes, it is important to connect Tu Bishvat with current themes of nature, climate, and so forth. That is a great part and a very important part of Tu Bishvat, but only focusing into that is limiting an incredible opportunity that we have every year for Tu Bishvat, where we can reflect about every single action that we do and what kind of reaction eventually is going to have, either to the planet, to the climate, or to your family, or to yourself, or to your community. This is a time to reflect on everything we do and the consequences that they will have. That it could be good consequences or bad consequences. but it's going to be up to us. It's all in our hands. It's all about our actions and what kind of tomorrow we create today. And this is a very important thing for us to understand. Sometimes it means that if you want to create a different tomorrow, you have to learn something new today. Maybe that's what you have to do. Learn something new today to create a different tomorrow. That's the kind of seed that you're going to plant. Because I believe that if you don't learn something new today, you won't really have a different tomorrow. You will just have a longer today, right? So do something today so you will have a different tomorrow. The tomorrow that is closer to what you dream, to what you want. And that goes for your life and also goes for the planet as well. Now, this is also interesting that this rabbi noticed about the changes in the climate during or around the time of Tu Bishvat. Not so much in Winnipeg, I have to say. But yes, in other parts of even North America where climate is a little bit milder, that you can already start seeing a little bit of a change as you move towards March, right? So this rabbi noticed the following. Tu Bishvat marks the turning point of the winter season. Even though there are many weeks of winter still ahead of us, there is no doubt that the season is turning. The days are becoming longer. I had to say this. Even in Winnipeg, I can notice this, that the days are becoming longer, okay? The sun higher and brighter in the sky, and the advertisements for Pesach accommodations more urgent and frenzied in tone. Yeah, I already started to get some targeted ads on Facebook about Passover on a cruise and stuff like that. Okay? So I'm not making these things up. Oh, thank you, Brenda. Dor Hadash, the t shirt. Yeah. Okay. So Tu Bishvat is thus not only a new beginning for the fruits and trees of the land of Israel, it is meant to signal a new beginning for us as individuals and as people and as Jewish society. One of the many amazing patterns of Jewish history, among others, has been the ability of Jewish society to renew itself as the circumstances of time demanded. Every generation, and certainly every century of history, possess age-old problems coupled with new twists and wrinkles. How to meet those challenges is a responsibility of Jewish leadership of every generation and time. Tu Bishvat comes to remind us of this omnipresent responsibility of facing the present and the future with realistic and yet inspirational tactics and solutions that deal with our current angst and problems. So this is, again, another way to bring new life to Tu Bishvat. So we can get more of these days that otherwise, if you go to the biblical text, if you don't have a field, there is nothing there for you. So I like all these new interpretations that it will help us connect with this date, right? And the other thing that I wanted to say about it is, as part of this multi-layer set of events connected to Bishvat, is that in the 16th century, the Kabbalist of Safed, this is a city in the northern district of Israel, compiled a Tu Bishvat Seder, somewhat similar to the Seder for Passover. It involves enjoying the fruits of the tree, particularly those native to the land of Israel, and discusses philosophical and Kabbalistic concepts associated with the day. Among other things, the Seder is a great way to appreciate the abundance that we so often take for granted, and to develop a good and generous eye for the world around us. What about that? I don't know if you ever had an opportunity to participate on the Seder. I remember many years during Torah Lechaim, actually, I did the complete Seder for all the people of Torah Lechaim. Maybe next year I'll do something like that so you can experience you can experience this Seder as well. Okay, and I'm looking at my watch, and we are almost done with the time that we have. And I said that I wanted to sing for you the song that I wanted to sing tonight at the Tu Bishvat concert, in case that you are not making it because, for example, you live in Texas. And we are not streaming it. So I'm trying to figure out here how to do this because I have the microphone here, but the piano there. Let's see if I can connect it so I can wrap up singing for you this song. Okay? Let me see if I can move the thing. How can I do this? Microphone is here. I know how I can do it. Hold on. I can shut this. Where can I put my microphone? I can't see where to hang the microphone because this microphone is kind of heavy. Move the piano. Can I do that? I can probably do it. Let's see. Let's see if this works. Can you hear it? If you can hear the piano, please let me know in the chat. What's this? בחצר אחת בתל אביב מצאתי עץ לימונתי פורח ולבן. בחצר אחת בתל אביב מצאתי עץ העיר אשר איבדתי מזמן. לתל אביב רומנסרו, לתל אביב שירו שיר אהבה, לתל אביב של לימונרו, לתל אביב לימי אביבה. לתל אביב רומנסרו, לתל אביב שירו שיר אהבה, לתל אביב של לימונרו, לתל אביב בימי אביבה. And of course, it's longer than that. It's longer, and I just sang it in the wrong key. It was a little bit too high. It's a little lower for the concert, but you have an idea what it is. It's called Tel Aviv Romancero. It was composed by Nurit Hirsch, the same one who composed Oh Jose Shalom Imrumab. And it's talking about a man who visits Tel Aviv and cannot recognize it anymore. Remembers the day when it used to be full of lemon trees, and now all he can find is one square with one little lemon tree. So it's about, it's a beautiful song, but also reflecting on how, sometimes cities are been taking over fields and other things, and even though they are beautiful cities, we miss the beautiful fields that used to be there before, right? Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Happy to Bishvat to all of you. I hope you have a chance to reflect on our actions and on our lives, on our planet, and everybody else. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe. And if you're in Winnipeg, what are you going to do tonight at 7 p.m.? Come to the concert. Bye, everyone.